Hello and welcome. This is TVC News at 7. We are staying with the arrest of suspected billionaire drug baron Afam Okato by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) over an alleged 3 billion naira tramadol deal linked to the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police Abba Kyari. The Director, Media and Advocacy of the NDLEA, Femi Babafemi, who confirmed the arrest in a statement, said Mr. Okato was arrested on a flight to Abuja from Lagos Airport on the 13th of April. After months of surveillance, NDLEA investigations reveal Mr. Okato has been a major importer of large consignments of different brands and high dosages of various milligrams of tramadol, all of which are illicit. He allegedly owns pharmaceutical and plastic manufacturing companies, which he used as a cover to import illicit drugs into Nigeria. Talking security now, one person has been killed with 7 others injured after the explosion of an improvised explosive device in Yobe State. The incident happened Sunday night at a local drinking joint at Abasha Ward in Gashua, the headquarters of Bade local government area. Chairman Bade local government Sanda Karabade confirms that the 3 males and 4 females injured are receiving medical attention at the specialist hospital in Gashua. This incident followed a similar one masterminded by suspected Boko Haram insurgents in the Gaidam community of the state, where 9 persons were killed. Locals say the attack took the residence and military base at Gaidam unawares, as there was no gun battle. According to their account, the terrorists silently sneaked into the town, executed their mission, and left. The national leader of the All Progressives Congress and presidential aspirant Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has commiserated with Governor Hope Uzodinma and the people of Imo State over the loss of over 100 lives caused by the explosion at an illegal crude oil refining station in Ohaji-Egbima local government area of the state. In a letter to Governor Uzodinma, Asiwaju Tinubu said this devastating incident underscores the need for all concerned Nigerians to do all that is necessary to discourage the nature of improper activities that led to the tragedy. He joins the call for the apprehension of the owner of the legal refinery and his accomplices, saying they had to bear the brunt for the crime and its devastating consequences. While condoling the families of the deceased, the presidential hopeful offered his full support in efforts to find a lasting solution to the underlying causes that led people to put their lives and the lives of others at such immense risk. Now to health matters. Today is World Malaria Day, and medical experts are asking government agencies to phase out fake malaria drugs and insecticides from circulation. In commemoration of the day, stakeholders raised massive awareness of the global burden of malaria and the need to mobilize support for the rollback malaria strategies. Sarah Ayeko reports.
Although Lagos is an urban city, the population explosion and geographical location make it susceptible to various diseases like malaria. According to the State Ministry of Health, more than 700,000 malaria cases are reported annually, accounting for more than 70% of outpatient in public health facilities.
Nigeria as a whole is referred as holo-endemic area, where we have a lot of malaria parasite, both draining and dry season period. Time of resources, not of human being, a lot has been diverted towards ensuring this thing is being eradicated. But up to now, we are just spending a lot of money to curb it.
In rural communities, residents resort to poor health-seeking habits and use of herbs and drugs to treat diseases instead of walking into a health facility for diagnosis and treatment. Such practice is what this outreach in a community in Shomolu, local government area of Lagos, seeks to change.
Even though in Nigeria, people are like, if you are sick with malaria, like, oh, that is not sickness, it's malaria, oh, you'll be fine, you know. But the truth of the matter is that people don't understand that there are lots of statistics that shows that malaria is a big deal. Especially the under 5 years, 80% of those who die from malaria are children. So the more reason why we need to know, because knowledge is important.
While Nigeria awaits the rollout of malaria vaccine for children, Lagos seems to be making appreciable progress to eradicating malaria in rural communities.
So apart from the provisions of drugs to all PHCs to ensure that as soon as malaria comes, they are treated. The government is doing everything humanly possible to ensure that sanitation is a must for every household. Apart from the controlling, there's a preventive measure too.
There's a lot of area the government have to come in. The SON, Standard Organization of Nigeria, have to be on their toes and just to monitor all these drugs, because I think 60% of them are produced in Nigeria. Nigeria is also producing anti-malaria drugs. It's not that it's being imported. We have a lot of good pharmaceutical companies that are doing it. But there's a lot of people that are adulterating it because of monetary gain.
Experts say malaria can be tackled if slum and urban dwellers take care of the environment and commit to eliminating malaria.
Well, joining me now for further discussion on the World Malaria Day is a public health physician, Olanlesi Osadiaye. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. The staggering statistics from the WHO about Nigeria and 3 other countries accounting for over half the statistics of malaria cases and deaths between 2020 and 2021. What is responsible for this?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. Yes, Nigeria is one of the 4 countries contributing to about 50% of the cases of malaria in the African region. And definitely we can say one of the major causes is environmental factors. Number one, our environment is not the cleanest. We need to do a lot in terms of that to make sure that we clear up all the breeding places. Malaria is a disease that has been with us for a while, and we are yet to find a solution, principally because our environment is not very clean. So if we're able to clean up the environment, clean up our gutters, let water pass very smoothly and easily, then we have less breeding places for malaria. As in a lot of cities like Lagos, where we have a lot of slums and areas where you have perfect breeding spots for the malaria, then we would always have a lot of malaria all around us, principally because of that. And other things are because
please go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say other things are because sometimes we tend to, everything is malaria a lot of times, and people come and go to the hospital. Before they even go to the hospital, they'll say, I have malaria. How do you know you have malaria? Did you do any tests? Did you do any of those sort of things? No, you did not, but you just assume you have malaria. So sometimes proper testing will help, proper diagnosis, and then we can actually properly treat. And this would also help to actually reduce the incidence of the cases of malaria.
So that would also speak to the issue of self-medication. They have people who come up with some symptoms, and just as you said, they assume it's malaria and they go ahead to self-medicate. So how do we get to that point of ensuring that people can boldly walk into our health facilities and get the needed diagnosis and, of course, treatment?
Okay, so for some health centers in Lagos, I can speak from Lagos, time to time, I know that they actually run free malaria, rapid diagnostic tests for malaria. I think the RDT test for malaria is one of the cheapest tests you can actually find, because as malaria is really endemic in our country, it's actually been made to be as cheap as possible. So I feel that every private hospital, every government hospital is one where you can easily walk into and actually run an RDT test. And I know that some pharmacies actually sell self-diagnostic kits that people can actually use themselves to diagnose if they have malaria. But I'll rather recommend, because they're expensive, that you actually walk into a primary health center, do your RDT before you actually self-medicate. When you're sure you have malaria, then you can actually take the anti-malaria drugs.
All right, so that's it on the part of the citizens. You mentioned earlier the breathing places available for malaria. Talk about water bodies, stagnant water, and this is the rainy season where you have more of these waters around. What would be your call to government and other stakeholders to face this whole breathing spaces for the virus, now bacteria, out?
The parasite, actually.
The parasite, okay.
But, number one, it's a collaborative thing. It's not something that one person is going to do. It's not one agency. So you're talking about agencies across board. Yes, the health sector has a role to play, but then the environmental officers and the environmental sector so has a huge role to play, and it's making sure that everybody comes together with one goal. When you have one goal and then you have the funding, also push the funds into it, because these things also require money. So with the funding and the proper education, because there are so many tools at hand to actually deal with malaria, so we can actually go. It's not only the environmental one we're talking about, other things too have to be put in place. So the environmental one, it's a multi-sectoral thing. Everybody comes together, make sure our markets are very clean. We are cleaning the markets, we are clearing our gutters, we are making sure that there's smooth flow of water, we are making sure that there's proper disposal of dirt and rubbish, and it's packed away. It's really a multi-sectoral collaboration thing, and I think if we all work together with one singular goal, we can actually achieve a better malaria incidence.
All right, so working together, everyone involved, to ensure that we are able to have a malaria-free society. Thank you very much, Dr. Olanlesi Osadiaye, public health physician, for joining us on TVC News at 7.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's move on to some other stories now. Education Writers Association of Nigeria has staged a peaceful walk in Lagos to call the attention of government to the plight of students of public universities who have lost an academic session to strike by lecturers. Members of the association, who called for immediate reopening of public universities in the country, presented their demands to Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu for onward transmission to President Muhammadu Buhari. TVC News senior correspondent Sharon Ijason has details.
Education Writers Association of Nigeria took to the streets to protest against the continued closure of the Nigerian universities across the country. They slated their demands.
Journalists are poorly paid. They don't have the resources to send their children abroad. We cannot even afford private university. The only ones that we can afford is public university. People are telling us that as long as these universities are continuing to close, then definitely all the inanities in this will continue in this country.
For overseas. But when they left, and that's the marked difference between what was happening then and now. Their certificates and qualifications weren't second guessed. And you can check out all of them that left in the 80s and all that. They weren't asked whether their certificates were genuine, whether they were really qualified.
As the conscience of the people, everyone feels the pain that as long as Nigerian children, Nigerian students are at home, we can never do well as a nation.
Children who are not going to school, we need to engage their minds. We need to help them to see a brighter future. We need to paint paint something that will say that, look, your life can amount to something good once you get educated.
The special advisor to the state governor on education, Tokunbo Wahab, received the association's letter written to the president on behalf of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu.
With due respect, I feel the pain of parents that for 2-3 years running, you can count how many months your students or your words have spent in school. It's not good enough. In as much as we know things are up and running in Lagos. Lagos is center of excellence, yes. But we can take your message. I will deliver it to the governor. We have EXCO by 12 noon. I will deliver your message to the governor, and I believe the governor will escalate it. These kids are idle. Today, Yahoo Plus is a child's play. In the secondary school, in the primary schools we have around us, things are not going right.
After the formal presentation to the governor stating the demands of the Education Writers Association of Nigeria, concerned parents want the federal government to yield to the demands of these journalists so as to ensure that the students go back to the classrooms. Sharon Ijason, TVC News.
A 5-day workshop to guide Nigeria's effort in implementing needed changes to improve state of governance and accelerate economic development has opened in Abuja. The gathering is to finalize the monitoring and evaluation framework for the nation's second African peer review mechanism. TVC News' Joke Adisa reports.
3 years after President Muhammadu Buhari approved the conduct of Nigeria's second peer review, the nation moves closer to finalizing its report. Between 2019 and now, national surveys have been carried out. There has also been conduct of the country's self-assessment across the 6 geopolitical zones.
Worthy of note that the country review is an initiative by the African Union to measure, promote governance, promote best practices, and encourage peer-to-peer learning.
Ministries, departments and agencies of government, civil society representatives and the private sector are brought together for capacity building towards ratifying the recommendations that will produce a program of action for Nigeria. Messages of solidarity and support are read, stressing the need to address identified challenges, including insecurity.
The MDS are individually doing a lot, because so much money is going into the ministries and MDS. However, the key performance indicators are almost not visible.
The NPOA embodies clearly articulated priorities and action needed to accelerate the effective delivery of good governance and socio-economic development.
The plan aims to generate 21 million full-time jobs and lift 35 million Nigerians out of poverty by 2025.
All recommendations are to be harmonized in line with the global SDGs 2030, Nigeria's National Development Plan 2050, and the AU Agenda 2063.
If you talk of insecurity, if you talk of job creation, if you talk of innovation, technology, health, education, in all the sectors, we're going to work on the policy to be able to address the challenges identified.
This workshop will in the next 5 days finalize the monitoring and evaluation framework for the implementation of Nigeria's second national program of action for its peer review mechanism. Jokeadsa, TVC News, Abuja.
Let's talk politics. Non-factional members of the All Progressives Congress in Bayelsa State are seeking assistance from the presidency and the party's National Working Committee to resolve the lingering issues dividing leaders of the party in the state. There is more in this report.
Since the Supreme Court judgment which faulted the victory of the All Progressives Congress in Bayelsa State's governorship election about 2 years ago, there have been various discordant tunes between some bigwigs of the party in the state. These disagreements have led to various factions springing up among the major players and their followers. But with the 2023 general elections around the corner, some non-aligned stakeholders have teamed up with Pastor Reuben Initiative for Good Leadership and Accountability to see an end to the lingering issues in the party.
It was a collective ideas that we used in forming this initiative. We want the party at the center to invite our leaders. Since this initiative, we are working on our own way to bring them together. At the same time, we need a upper hand, a higher force, to also invite them and talk to them. Without unity, Bayelsa APC can't go anywhere.
We should be able to also preach to our followers, no matter how few, that look, unity, progress is the key to our progress as a country. And I want to once again assure you that whatever needed to be done, at my own level, I will do it like I've started.
Members of the body believe only unity of purpose could help repeat and sustain the victory of the party in the coming polls.
If our leaders, our fathers, we see them as our fathers, are not united, you know what it means. We, the wives, the children, the sisters, will also suffer. And the truth is we are suffering. Because a house divided against itself, even the Bible says it will not stand. And I want to let you know that we are already out in this matter. Women have taken it upon ourselves. We have tied our wrappers and we are going to Abuja to meet them.
We should be sensitive enough. We should have wisdom for ourselves to see that we youth, we should not join that cause of disunity. If we stand, that united we stand, they will also join us.
With delegations already sent to meet with the disagreeing factions, the initiative hopes to achieve its objective before the party primaries just weeks ahead. Joseph Kunde, TVC News, Yenagoa.
Elsewhere, Governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, says he will always support activities that ensure cultural heritage of his people is preserved. He believes this would help instill vital values to the younger generation, now fast influenced by Western culture and globalization. The governor was speaking during the 17th annual Anioma Cultural Festival in Asaba. Ikenna Amechi has more.
Anioma people are Igbo communities in Delta State. They occupy Delta North Senatorial District, which consists of Enuani, that is Oshimili, and Oniocha, Ika, and Okwani, Ndokwa zones of Delta State. Anioma means good land in Igbo language, and it has an estimated total population of approximately 1.8 million people. This annual festival, the 17th edition, is their way of bonding and showcasing their rich cultural heritage in dance, music, and traditional wrestling, where different categories of males show their agility. They express their prowess in a competition as different dance groups display to the delight of the people dressed in traditional attire, both adults and children.
We are lost midstream. We, Africans, Nigerians, and Anioma people, we are lost midstream. And so we have rediscovered ourselves. Therefore, we have to retell our narratives.
The Anioma culture is our dances. The Anioma culture is the things we do that distinguishes us from other people.
The flute competition did not fail to impress as well, with different flutists taking turn to exhibit their talent. A vital part of the festival is the launching of a new dance group for the Anioma people. Governor Okowa, represented by the Secretary to the State Government, could not hide his excitement at how the festival was organized by the people.
No doubt, through this festival, our cultural values will be imparted to the younger generation. In the same vein, this festival is also helping in building bridges of love, peace, and unity amongst our people.
You can see that youths are being featured in most of the things we are doing now. That's when the youths get involved, you have sustainability.
Unity that this whole festival has generated in the last 17 years or so, you cannot find it anywhere in the country.
Groups and deserving individuals were presented with awards. Ikenna Amechi, TVC News, Asaba.
A former Nigerian minister, Alabo Toye Graham Douglas, is dead. Graham Douglas was the Rivers State Commissioner for Youth, Sport and Culture in 1986. He was appointed Nigerian Minister of Youth, Sport and Culture in 1989, then Minister of Aviation in General Ibrahim Babangida's cabinet. In 1992, Graham Douglas became chairman of the Southern Minorities Movement, one of the groups that eventually merged into the People's Democratic Party, PDP. He was a candidate in the PDP primaries for the presidential nomination in 1998, losing to Olusegun Obasanjo, who went on to become president. In 1999, he was appointed Minister of Labor and Productivity, and in 2000, Minister of Tourism in the Olusegun Obasanjo cabinet, leaving office in January 2000. He died at a hospital in Abuja. May his soul rest in peace. To another development where the coroner presiding over the inquest into the killing of Jumoke Oyeleke visited the scene today. Eyewitnesses accused police officers of shooting the sales attendant while chasing away Yoruba secessionists who gathered in Ojota, Lagos on the 2nd of July last year. Kemi Foladeyemo has more.
The first business of the day was for the police council to present the investigative police officer to give evidence at the inquest situated at the Samuel Ilori Courthouse, Ogba. But their absence again stalled the proceedings. After almost 2 hours of wait, parties including the presiding chief magistrate as well as counsel for the state and the Oyeleke family headed to Ojota where the deceased took her last breath. The magistrate, Mukaila Fadeyi, noted that even though all parties had agreed as to the date and time for these proceedings to hold here, the police was absent to give cover to the session and to participate in the proceedings. 3 witnesses, including the deceased employer, were on the ground to provide more evidence on the case, establishing strategic spots in order to ascertain whether indeed the police fired the shots.
They were running after them in our normal police uniform. Yes, the camouflage, black and black, blue and white, the agile police uniform. They were running after them.
But none of the witnesses could provide information as to the whereabouts of the bullet that hit the 25-year-old.
Like the medical examiner pathologist said, no shell was found in her body, meaning that thing will have been expelled here somewhere.
So as we men, we run from the jump through the gate and enter the other policemen that shooting straight from.
You are saying policemen were following them and shooting straight into this compound?
Yes, into the compound. So we men will jump through this gate, enter the other side of the gate. So after a while, after some minutes later, I got a call from my madam saying her daughter has shot the dog.
After about 40 minutes at the scene, further hearing was fixed for May the 16th to review all evidence. Kemi Foladiemo, TVC News, Lagos.
In other news, the Ondo State government says plans have been concluded to embrace dairy farming and its economic value chains towards creating jobs for residents of the state. Senior Special Assistant to the State Governor on Agriculture, Akin Olotu, stated this on the sidelines of a stakeholders meeting on cattle production value chain project in Akure, the state capital. Ayode Jomorade, your report. After that, we'll have business news.
This stakeholders meeting came ahead of the plan by Ondo State government to establish a dairy center in the state as part of its diversification efforts. The establishment of the dairy farm is in partnership with a private company.
Fully on Monday.
Addressing the gathering, the Senior Special Assistant to the State Governor on Agriculture, Akin Olotu, said meat collection centers have been built across the state. Olotu said the state is targeting 10,000 liters of milk from the cows per day. According to him, with the restriction of importation of milk by the federal government, the state is waiting for investors to tap in.
The way to go, the idea of looking for white-collar job, it should become a thing of the past. So we will work in such a way that people can acquire skill across the 6 links on the value chain of the dairy sector. Milk will be produced here. Beef will be available. If you listen to the presentation, what animal gives you milk for about 9 years.
Others are optimistic that the dairy center will boost the state economy.
We have a dairy village. Come and invest in dairy village. So you do not really necessarily need a big amount of money. But if you form cooperatives, the Central Bank of Nigeria is also giving anchor borrowers loan of dairy. So you can also tap into that. So it's not about how much you need, it's about the quality or the quantity of or the scale you want to go. Of course, if you want to go in a large scale, 1,500 cows, you need a lot of money.
When it becomes operational, the dairy center is expected to create jobs for hundreds of youth in the state. Ayode Jomorade, TVC News, Akure.
And in business news, going by the changing dynamics in the accounting profession, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria has urged professional accountants to develop entrepreneurial skills to meet the need of growing job demands for accountants. Well, this call was made by the president of the institute, Mrs. Comfort Oluweyitayo, during a visit to the secretariat of the Ikeja and District Society of ICANN in Lagos. Blessed Omonose reports.
The need for professional accountants to develop their entrepreneurial skills towards creativity and innovativeness in an ever-changing business world has been re-emphasized.
Are written on the same thing.
at this gathering of accounting practitioners. The president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, Mrs. Comfort Olu Eitayo, during her presidential visit to the Secretariat of the Ikeja and District Society of ICANN, urged members to look beyond working with numbers to understanding business strategy skills that makes them well-equipped entrepreneurs and economic policy makers.
The way we do things normally have changed. We must realize that. So the entrepreneurial aspect of that is what we are also teaching, how to make use and apply technology as a tool to enhance our performance. It's still our job that we are doing, but we are doing it now in a more efficient and beneficial way to us.
On the role of professional accountants in the process of budget formulation and economic planning, the ICANN boss says the impact will aid efficiency and effectiveness in the use of resources.
Throughout the budget process, from the beginning even to the end, because after budget, you also monitor implementation of budget. Professionals are necessary, and this is what will give confidence to international people, the possible investors that we are craving to come and invest in our economy.
The economy, as we all are witnessing, is so dynamic and ever-changing that one must just be on top of his or her game at any point in time to be able to cope with the challenges that we are experiencing in the economy.
Given that the complexity of the business environment is escalating rapidly worldwide, the need for accountants to upskill and keep pace with the disruptive changes to remain relevant in their field cannot be overemphasized. Blessed Omonose, TVC News, Lagos.
A regional climate forum for West Africa and the Sahel region has ended with emphasis on the need to ensure information on weather predictions get to farmers in rural areas. This is coming against the backdrop of adverse weather conditions such as floods and droughts, which have grossly affected food security on the continent. Lara Folayo reports.
Weather forecasts are critical to planting decisions by farmers. They are also relevant to how water resource managers plan water infrastructure, amongst other benefits across sectors.
During the rainy season, the indicator increase.
This regional conference on climate prediction is now seeking how weather forecasting processes can be improved. It also doubles as a seasonal forecast presentation platform for the Sudan Sahel zones.
The onset of the rainy seasons, it is expected to have early onset, almost for the whole Sudanian and Sahelian area. It is also expected to have late cessation date.
What this forum has predicted is what was captured in our prediction. So there isn't much difference. I don't see any, by the way.
The forum underscored the relevance of weather forecasting to regional integration and development, as well as the urgency of farmers, including those in hard-to-reach areas, being alerted ahead of extreme conditions through forecast.
This helps a lot, bring it together, everyone in the West African and the Sahel region to come together, share information, and this helps in lots of ways to share sightseeing information with regards to the climate in a systematic manner.
So it's up to us, both the federal and the state governments, to rise up to this challenge of addressing issues caused by climate change.
The World Meteorological Organization, on its part, shares its thoughts on how countries can help themselves mitigate the impact of climate change, as it especially affects agriculture.
When we encourage countries to generate data so that forecasters can have the background for which they would use to make credible forecasts. You know, forecasters are not magicians. They need data from all over the world in order to be able to make good predictions.
The Nigerian agricultural sector has seen huge losses due to perennial floods, and lessons learned from this regional conference is now expected to help the country change that narrative through better climatic predictions. Lara Folayo, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, in other news, in less than 3 months after hiking the price of bread, bakers under the aegis of Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria say they will increase the price of bread again. President of the association, Mr. Emmanuel Onoha, made this known, says the increase became inevitable due to the soaring cost of operations occasioned by forex scarcity, high cost of baking materials, poor power supply, amongst others. He noted that the association increased only the price of the bigger size called jumbo loaf by 100 naira and the slice of bread by 50 naira. Well, he says this new development will take effect from today. According to Mr. Onoha, a big part of the shortcoming hanging over the bread making industry has to do with the import duty charged by the government on wheat imports, hereby accusing flour producing companies of an arbitrary increase in the price of the product. The PBAN president adds that the latest increase may only be prelude to further increments that will see a significant increase in the price of bread as the prevailing circumstances remain unreflective of the conditions bakers require to operate profitably. Meanwhile, the average fare paid for water transport in March 2022 was 819 naira from 913 naira paid in February 2022. Well, that's according to the latest report from the National Bureau of Statistics. The NBS, in its Transport Fare Watch for March 2022, disclosed that water transportation fares rose by 10.10% to 808 naira 38 kobo in March 2021 to about 819 naira 03 kobo in March 2022 year-on-year. According to the report, the average fare paid for water transport in March dropped to 890 naira 03 kobo, showing a decrease of 2.53% on a month-on-month basis from 913 naira 13 kobo in February 2022. The National Statistics Body noted that the average fare paid by commuters for bus journey into city per drop rose to 3,270 naira in March, representing an increase of 5.29% from 3,106 in February 2022. While the average fare paid by air passengers for specified routes single journey increased by 4.43% on a month-on-month basis from 44,825 naira in February to 46,810 naira in March, both in 2022. The stock market closed with higher prices on shares during mid-transactions after lower trades in early hours. Effiong Ekop takes it from here.
Stock trading opened the week with improved prices on securities. Detailed studies showed that the price jumps went through many trade sectors. The positive trends pushed the market index upward by 0.20% to stress gains by companies. Companies with hotels brands, oil and gas and aviation sector operators closed trades with major gains. It was different with trade losers, many of which came from the banking, maritime, insurance and general trade sectors. Reasonable levels of business with over 300 million units of shares were traded worth over 4 billion naira. Effiong Ekop TVC News, Lagos.
Well, outside our shores, Asian stocks fell the most in 2 weeks today as concerns about rapid U.S. rate rises and slowing growth rattled investors, while the euro found support after Emmanuel Macron won a second term as French president. But MSCI's broadest index of Asian Pacific shares outside Japan slid 1.6% to a 6-week low and a nod from authorities extended steep losses for the Chinese yuan. Japan Nikkei fell 1.9%, Hong Kong Hang Seng fell 3%, S&P 500 futures dropped 0.8%, FTSE futures and European futures were off by more than 1%. China's blue chip CSR 300 index fell to its lowest since June 2020, and investors have been underwhelmed by policy support for the flagging economy. And finally, oil prices on international markets slumped to a near 2 week low today, extending losses from last week as concerns grew that prolonged COVID-19 lockdowns in Shanghai and potential U.S. rate hikes would hurt global economic growth and fuel demand. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude recorded a dip of 3.56% to hit $98.44 per barrel. Brent crude sells at $102.90, registering a downward price margin of 3.51%. Bonny Light's performance is also starting the week in the red territory, with a price drop of 1.35% to sell at $106.70 per barrel. For the OPEC basket, crude dealers offer $108.80, recording an increase of 0.78%.